Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. And what a lovely day here for a little drive in the Lambo on a Sunday morning. Cannot beat it. So I've just popped in on a Sunday morning to do a little bit of paperwork. Yeah, I'm dedicated, I know. I thought while I'm here, I'm just going to do a little video on what I said on the last video I would, is the Focus RS/ST engines that are from originally the Volvos. Been getting quite a lot of these over the last couple of years, probably a little bit more than that. I know the cars are sort of getting to an age now where they're sort of 10 years old plus, 10 to 15 years old, but it's a little bit of a mystery still, really. They all seem to come in with the same problems. So the reason I'm going to do a video is just to sort of show you what happens. And as I say, although we are an engine specialist, we're a little bit unsure as to why it happens, really. And the reason is for that is prior to all these problems arising from the Ford derivative of the Volvo engine, before that we did have quite a lot of Volvos over the years that we dealt with, and I did have a few comments off obviously mechanics and people that sort of know what they're talking about, saying, I suspect what it is the Fords are tuned, the Volvos aren't. You know, the Volvos are probably a different type of driver than the RSs and the STs. But I don't think that's true, because as I say, we've had quite a few engines out of cars in the Volvos, like the T5s and that, where they've been tuned, and, you know, they're good 300 odd horsepower, whereas in the ST, what are they, 220, 225 horsepower? And we've had quite a lot of motors in for remachining from standard vehicles. So I don't know. It's a strange one. I say we don't know enough about the actual vehicles, obviously, because we only get the engines, to know what ECU they run and map they run and all this, and, you know, whether the injectors and all that are different. I don't know. It's just a strange one. But so yeah, we've got an engine down here that we've just done. Well, this is a cylinder block. If you have a look down there, you've got the block and the pistons and rods. This one has come in with one of the two problems that they usually suffer with. This has done a big end on the crank. So the crank's over here. So this one has done an end down here. It's a strange one, really, because this one, as I say, one of the two problems that they suffer with is doing an end on the crank, so almost giving the impression that it's run short of oil, or they overheat. And when I say overheat, they overheat good and proper, these things. But the strange thing is, and this engine that we've got in here now, as it had a good service, it also had an oil pump. I don't know whether it was because they sort of revised the oil pump on this particular model or what, but it's had an oil pump. It's a brand new oil pump, and it's a genuine oil pump. And then it's done not many miles at all, and it's done an end. But apparently the pump has been sent back, checked, absolutely nothing wrong with it at all. There's no other signs of it running short of oil whatsoever, but it's still done an end. So whether that is down to an injector issue or dilution of the oil, same thing, because of an injector, I don't know. But it's also, you know, this one wasn't suffering from a head gasket, but now the head's been removed. We faced the block, and there's been about 15 thou took off the block, which does sound like a lot, and it is a lot to take off the block, because if you take too much off the block, you've then got to start modifying the tops of the pistons. But actually, we have took way more than that off these blocks before. What you normally find with this engine is, and unlike nearly every other engine I can think of, when the head warps, which they do, and they warp more, the more cylinders the car's got in a straight line. So a 6-cylinder will become more apparently warped than a 4-cylinder. But these engines, usually, if it does a head gasket due to overheating, it will warp the cylinder head. So you end up having to take maybe 5, 10, 15 thou sometimes off the cylinder head. But it doesn't tend to warp the block as much. But these things, because they're a sort of semi-wet liner, So you're probably talking the top 3 inches of the liner is sort of floating in the block, and then it goes down to the bottom of the water jacket. These things, the liners almost sink into the block, even though they are part of the casting. So as I say, these engines here, usually the block warps as much as the head, which is very unusual. As I said before, we've got a customer that deals with quite a few, one after the other, mainly of the STs. And we've had to take 25 thou off the head, 25 thou off the block before, give it him back. Whether he gets the piston, I mean, we've never modified the pistons before, but whether he does get them, but we've never heard back. He sort of puts them together and they're okay. So it's a very strange one. But as I say, the overheating issue is usually things, whether if they've done high mileage or they sort of have a radiator issue or something, they can suffer with overheating. But these don't really have any apparent reason for doing what they do. And it's the same with doing a big end. You know, we've had them before where they've done all the mains and it does look like an oil, but nothing apparently is wrong with the oil system. You know, it's very strange. Also what they do, I mean, a renowned thing for these, and this is going out as a bit of advice to anyone that's got one of these and is thinking of doing this mod. They call it the block mod, where what they do, they almost remove the cylinder head, and in between the liners, and I'll show you this. You see in between the liners, there's a very tiny sort of slit to separate the liners right in between. Now, the block mod consists of, and I think this is the reason for this mod, is to slow any sort of movement down with the top of the liners, but they almost get like a shim and drive it in between the liners. Had them in here where it's had it done before, and I'll tell you something now, if you measure the tops of those bores that have had those things driven in, they are all over the place. So if you are going to do that block mod, which personally I don't think makes a great deal of difference anyway, you need to be reboring these things because the top goes oval. And when I say oval, I mean they're up to 4 thou oval, which is a hell of a lot. So yeah, the block mod in situ, I would say definitely a no-no. Also with the overheating issue, these things do suffer with massive avality of the bores anyway. I mean, I've had them in where they measure 5 thou oval from top to bottom, and they haven't even had the block mod. They're just horrendous things. It's a shame, really, because I do really like the Focus RS, and I've toyed in the past with sort of getting one as a daily, but even probably not now because the price has gone up, but you know, definitely not now with seeing these engines. I don't know, it's a very strange one, and I'd really appreciate any of you guys putting in the comments below that have had experience with these and why you think this is happening. Let's say this one's in, not necessarily overheated, but having faced the block definitely shows signs that it's been distorting, so it's only a matter of time till the head gasket went on this anyway. The crank doesn't look that bad, although it's done an end, providing when we set it up that it hasn't bent the crank, because sometimes when it doesn't end, well, I say sometimes, nearly all the time, when it doesn't end and it's hammered it slightly, it nearly always bends the crank. It just depends whether that will grind out or straighten if necessary. But this one doesn't look too bad, so I'm hoping they only go to 0.25 on the big ends anyway, so I'm hoping it does clean. If it cleans, as I say, we've faced the block. The guy's got some new com rods, which new second hand. I've checked all the rods, sized them, weighed all the rods, cleaned the pistons up and measured those. They're ready for the new rings. I faced the block, deglazed the bores. The bores actually on this are probably one of the best I've had. They measure maybe a thou and a half at the top over top limit, but that's probably a good thing on this because this is a tuned one. So yeah, very strange one, guys. Really appreciate your comments on what you think of this. As I say, one of the main reasons for me doing a video on this, because I would appreciate anyone that sort of knows, although we are an engine specialist, we don't know everything, and because we're doing more and more of these, I'd like to see what your opinion is on it. But yeah, thanks very much for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Remember, I think only about 30% of you guys are subscribed at the minute, so it don't cost anything. Please press that button, helps us out a lot. Hit the notification bell, and I'll see you in another video. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.